Hi, my name's Alex Meisl. I'm delighted to be here today, and I just wanted to express my support for the people of Belgium, and I'm glad that this event is still able to go ahead. I'm going to talk today about loyalty in-store and how mobile and Wi-Fi come together to make it work. Quick bit about me. I've been in the digital and mobile space for 25 years, former chairman of the Mobile Marketing Association, and I help businesses launch in the UK. Quick bit about the UK market. The mobile phone is now such a central part of people's lives in the UK that, based on recent research by Ipsos Mori, 1/3 of the British public would rather give up sex than give up their mobile phones. Even more depressingly, when it comes to alcohol, which I think is something which is of vital importance to humans' well-being, 2/3 of Brits would rather give up alcohol than give up their mobile phones. And rather more depressingly, as someone with children, more 5-year-olds know how to use a smartphone than know how to tie up their laces. So first of all, I want to correct 3 misapprehensions about mobile in general. A lot of people these days are saying that SMS is dead. And I'm sure the guys at CM.com would strongly disagree with that. But again, using context from the UK, in the UK in 2014, 5 billion fewer SMSs were sent than the previous year. So obviously the market is now destroyed. However, this is not true at all, because even though 5 billion fewer SMSs were sent in the UK last year, the UK still sent over 140 billion messages. That's 6 messages per person per day for every day of the year. The second fallacy is that physical retail is dying. Everyone talks about the move to online, and whilst online is certainly significant and growing, it still only represents in the UK about 10% of the overall retail market. But Deloitte suggests that 4 out of 10 shops will close in the next 5 years as people move more towards online shopping. However, if you get it right, that's actually not the case. So if you take the example of a major department store in the UK called John Lewis, their IT spend in the last 5 years has increased by 600%. Because they have discovered that a well-executed omni-channel strategy will deliver 3 times the sales per customer that a single-channel strategy will. And as a result, at John Lewis, in the last 10 years, sales have doubled to $16 billion. The final thing which I would like to sort of correct is people assume that beacons are the answer. Rather like apps 6-7 years ago, everyone is assuming that beacons are the future, and if you embrace beacons, life is going to be fabulous. Beacons maybe have a part to play, but it's a very small part to play because there are some fundamental challenges with beacons. There are issues with battery life. Most importantly, there is the requirement that you have an app on your handset, and this is something that retailers have found very difficult to do. A typical app penetration for a physical retailer is less than 10%. And finally, there's the issue of piracy. It's very easy for one retailer to hijack another retailer's beacons and deliver the wrong message for the competing retailer to the customer. So why does this all matter, and why is it so important? Well, mobile seems to be getting significant traction at long last, and I'm not going to sort of go into talking about the year of mobile or anything like that. However, if you look at some of the big brands, so Mondelez, for example, are now putting 10% of their global marketing budget into mobile. Procter & Gamble, the CMO of Procter & Gamble, recently said, "Our mobile strategy is very simple, to follow customers." And what does that mean in practice? Well, in 2014, the last year we have figures, Procter & Gamble reduced their marketing budget, their overall marketing budget, but expected the overall impact of the budget that they spent to be well ahead of previous years, purely because they were they diverted more of their budget towards mobile and social. So let's move on to retail, and I'd like to think of retail in more of a holistic sense. And if you in the UK take trains, so trains maybe doesn't come across as a retail a sort of key retailer. But if you look at this picture, this is something which, you know, we're all used to. Anyone who's travelled on UK trains might think that our train system is slightly more like this. But very recently, the Royal Bank of Scotland, the second or third largest bank in the UK, said that in theory their biggest branch is the train which leaves from Reading at 7:01 in the morning from Reading to London. And over 167,000 customers of the Royal Bank of Scotland use their mobile banking app between 7 and 8 in the morning. And to reflect on what Jerry said earlier, the speed of adoption of things like mobile banking is really significant. So Barclays Bank took 13 years to get to 2 million customers to use internet banking. It took just 2 months to get 2 million mobile banking customers. So let's move on to retail pure and simple. Now, in the good old days, before the advent of hypermarkets, retailers knew who their customers were. So the shops were smaller, the retailers knew the customer by name and were able to engage with the customer and make suggestions and give recommendations based on their knowledge of the customer. As retailers grew and supermarkets grew in size and scale, the ability to recognise the customer became almost impossible. So what did they do? Well, they launched loyalty cards, and probably one of the most successful loyalty cards in the UK, probably in Europe, is the Tesco Club Card, with over 16 million active users just in the UK. And that's great. The club card or the loyalty card learns about you, has data about you, and can make recommendations. But it has a fundamental problem. And the fundamental problem is that you only show your club card or your loyalty card when you check out. And by that point, when you're checking out, you've already made all your purchases. So the idea of the loyalty card using its data to make recommendations is null and void. So the only thing they can do is, what happens in the UK at least, is they can send you letters through the post every 3 months with vouchers. They can send you emails with vouchers, and one of the retailers, Sainsbury's, actually print bespoke offers based on their knowledge of you through the loyalty card on the back of your till receipt. And that's okay, but that creates significant friction, because if you're given offers as you leave the supermarket, you've got to remember to keep those offers in a safe place. When you go back to the supermarket, you've got to find where you've hidden that till receipt with those offers, and it's not that practical. And yet, in a retail environment, what we are seeing from this graph is how significant digital is becoming, typically through the mobile device. So what we are seeing is that in 2013, mobile became more influential than any other digital channel when speaking to people in a physical environment. To the extent that in 2014, Deloitte's believe that digital influenced over half of all retail sales in the US. And that is expected to increase to over 60% in 2015 in this year, which means that digital influences sales 6 times more than actual e-commerce and mcommerce combined. So this year, 64% of all sales in a physical environment will be influenced by digital, and that equals $2.2 trillion. We're also seeing from other sources, other good quality sources, that consumers increasingly are expecting to receive personalised communications from retailers, and that is likely to drive their loyalty. So 78% of consumers are more likely to be a repeat customer if a retailer provides them with targeted personalised offers. And even more significant, if you take supermarkets in particular, research shows that 3/4 of all purchasing decisions are actually made when you're in store. So you go with a broad idea of what you want to buy, but it's only when you're in the store that you make your decisions. And digital has a great power to influence you and nudge you to make specific purchases. So we're entering the era of mass personalisation. Now, how can we do that in a physical environment? Well, there are a variety of different ways. There are beacons, but there is the requirement for an app. There are QR codes, but a lot of people don't have QR code readers. There's NFC, but that does not play to people's behaviour. The idea of checking in, physically checking in when they get to the store, is quite a challenge. However, we believe that the future, for at least the next few years, relies on Wi-Fi. And why Wi-Fi? Well, Wi-Fi is increasingly like a commodity. It's like oxygen. And for people going into a retail store, they expect to be able to browse on their mobile devices. And this is also influenced by the way retailers are increasingly working. Retailers are moving towards the idea of endless aisles. So, yes, here we have 10 televisions in our store, but if you go online to our website, you'll find another 20 televisions, another 50 televisions. So people are required to use their mobile devices to find out more about the choice of product and also more details about the product. And at that point, people then question, well, why should I be using my own data package? Because even if people are on unlimited data packages, that doesn't really mean unlimited data. And increasingly, people are moving to Wi-Fi. And to give you an idea, if you take one of the biggest supermarkets in the UK, they already have more than 10% of their customers, with no promotion, they have already over 10% of their customers using Wi-Fi in store, which is significantly more than the number of people who use their app. And Wi-Fi really is taking off. So based on some recent research, in the UK already 60% of retailers have installed Wi-Fi, and in the US it is expected that by the end of this year just over 75% of retailers will offer customer Wi-Fi, up from 40% at the beginning of this year. And this leads to all sorts of sort of light-hearted behaviour and paranoia about things like showrooming, etc. This pair is so perfect, I can't wait to buy them, cheaper online somewhere. What's your Wi-Fi password? However, what has been shown is that customer Wi-Fi increases customer loyalty and typically delivers a 3.5% increase in sales. That doesn't sound a huge amount, but because the fixed costs at the retailer have already been amortised, that can deliver over a 15% increase in EBITDA. So what can people do with Wi-Fi? And this is where our company comes in. Well, the great thing about Wi-Fi is it allows us to locate a person within a store when they get to the store or in specific parts of the store. Because we're already integrated with the back end of the retailer, we know exactly what the features in the store are. So does it have click and collect? Does it have a pharmacy? Does it have a cafe? What are the special offers in this store at this moment? We then move on to the customer. So if the customer has a loyalty card, what do we know about the customer? What are the sort of products they buy? And then finally, we use other data as well. So things like the weather. So if it's a rainy day, that's going to influence us talking about things like soups. If it's a Friday afternoon and tomorrow it's going to be very hot, which I think is highly unlikely either in Belgium or the UK at the moment, then we can talk about barbecues and cold drinks. What that then allows us to do is start to communicate with people on a personalised one-to-one basis. So for example, when you arrive at the store, if you're coming to collect an order you've already placed, the Wi-Fi network can recognise you as you arrive at the car park and say, hey Alex, your order is ready, please come in and collect it. Or if it isn't ready, it then says, hey, your order will be ready in 10 minutes, here's a voucher for a free coffee, why don't you drink a coffee while you're waiting for your order to be finished? One of the retailers in the UK, Tesco, reckon that if they could speak to people when they're still in the car park leaving their car and say, hey, don't forget before you leave your car to collect your plastic bags, that would save them over £1 million a year. And then when you get in the store, suddenly you can deliver all sorts of different experiences. So brands will want to speak to the ideal targeted customer to tell them about specific offers they're offering. So whether it's just a sales-led promotion or whether it's more about a new product launch, etc. And then again, you can deliver experiences based on the time of day. So if you arrive in the morning, we can start talking about your delicious range of freshly cooked pastries and croissants. If it's at lunchtime, the retailer knows you're probably going in to buy a sandwich and a lunchtime meal. And then if it's in the evening, that's where you're planning for your evening meal, so we'll talk about some of the offers going on there. And then when it comes to exit messages, there are a whole range of different things we can deliver. So based on your loyalty card, we can tell you how many points you've just gained in your shop just then. It's a great opportunity to survey people, and you can target the people you're surveying rather than just a blanket approach, which is normally typical of someone with a clipboard talking to people when they exit. Because it's done via the mobile device, because it's all based on only asking questions of the specific demographic you want to speak to, it can deliver very rich content in real time, which can be fed back to the retailer in real time, therefore deliver compelling data to allow them to make adjustments in their offer. But it's also great for the environment, because if a retailer recognises that they've got too much of a perishable stock, it's a perfect opportunity for them to say, aha, Alex is a regular customer, he often does buy yogurt, and we've got too much yogurt. So what we'll say is, hey Alex, as a loyal customer, help yourself to 4 containers of yogurt for half price or even free. I feel good, I'm doing my bit for the environment. The retailer then doesn't have to destroy products. It's also a great way of recognising whether the customer has an app on their handset, and if not, a good opportunity to say, hey, we notice you don't have our app, why don't you download the app? And then finally, it's a great opportunity to push people online. So we recognise you're a regular in the store, but we also want to deliver you into an omni-channel experience. So we can say, thanks for visiting us today. Here's a unique code, use it online in the next 48 hours to get some benefit. And increasingly, mobile is not just about shopping. So if you take the perfume brand retailer Sephora, when asked what the biggest new opportunity in mobile this year is, the director of mobile and digital store marketing said, I think the thing that is going to be different is that mobile is transitioning from being just a shop on the go to being really a personal assistant helping shoppers in store. We're expecting as much as 30% of our clients are going to shop in store with mobile this year. So suddenly mobile becomes much more than just a transaction device. It's just as much about being a device which improves, enhances, and just generally makes better the whole shopping experience. But rather than just listening to old farts like me talking about what people are doing, it's probably worth listening to what millennials have to say as well. And this is some recent research done, and it's pretty clear that millennials expect mobile to deliver for them. So 54% of millennials said that a poor mobile experience would make it less likely for them to use a business's other products. 39% of them said it would make them less likely to recommend the company's products. And finally, 27% of them said it would even give them a negative view of the business's products. So get mobile wrong at your peril. So to finish off, prior to any questions, if there are any questions, or if not, I'll get Bent to panic and think of something. 6 takeaways to think about when you're thinking about mobile from a holistic perspective. First of all, don't necessarily be seduced by shiny new things. And this is a very dangerous thing to say, because marketing directors very often are driven by being the first to do something new. And that's great, you know, it might give them kudos in the company. But mobile is such an interactive device and such a powerful device, it's all very well doing something very cool. But if it's something very cool which only works on a single device, or only works with 5% of the public, are you really delivering the right experience to your customers? Secondly, e-commerce and mcommerce is really, really important. I'm not disputing that for 1 minute. It already represents 8 to 10% of the market, and that's great. But at the same time, don't forget that the overall digital experience, even if the transaction does not take place on the mobile device, but the overall digital experience is typically 6 times more important than the actual e-commerce or mcommerce part. So in other words, recognize where someone is, recognize what they're trying to do, and engage with them via digital, because the influence of digital will increase your sales, not necessarily on the mobile device, but in the store or in another environment. Probably one of the most important things is trying to get customers to self-identify. And this is vital, because without identifying yourself, you're just a number. Now, the great thing about a mobile phone these days is your mobile phone number these days is probably the single best way of identifying an individual. Typically, now, a mobile phone number is with you for life. So if you can identify a person or get the person to self-identify based on their mobile phone and their mobile phone number, that means next time they go back to the store, with the appropriate permissions, you can automatically recognize them and automatically deliver personalized, contextually relevant experiences. I said it before, and I feel it's important to repeat. Don't believe all the hype about beacons. Yes, beacons have a role to play, probably a much smaller role than people believe. But just because people talk about beacons doesn't mean that they're the right way ahead. And I defy you to find many case studies which exist out there which show that beacons have been a big success in large quantities. Fifth, context is king. And context for me, especially location, is the most important thing to do. And really, if you think about the way mobile sites work at the moment, a lot of them still don't use location-based content. So if I go to many retailers' mobile sites, the first thing they'll typically ask me is, find out where your nearest store is. And that's great. And I then go to that store. When I arrive in the store, because most mobile sites aren't location aware, the experience is still the same. It should recognize I'm now in the store and deliver a completely different experience to me. So, hey, welcome to our store. What do you want to find today, or what inspiration do you want today? And this, I find, is very slow happening. Bit by bit, some retailers are doing this, but it's way too slow. And then finally, and this is nothing to do with CM.com, I hasten to add, don't forget old technology. So SMS might not appear to be sexy, but it is still an incredibly potent and simple way to engage with people. So after that, thank you very much, and thanks for paying attention.
Thank you so much, Alex, for being here. Well, there are actually two questions from the audience at this moment. The first one is, of course, there's a lot of Wi-Fi use, especially if you go to larger stores like shopping malls or supermarkets where people tend to stay for at least 10 minutes or longer. But how about smaller outlets? Because normally you're sometimes browsing in a city and you maybe go to sort of 2 minutes just to look around, and you're not using Wi-Fi, but the shop owner wants to have access to this information. So what's the solution to that?
There are almost two answers to that. The first answer is typically if you sign up to Wi-Fi, you only ever need to do it once. So next time you go back, even if you don't connect to the Wi-Fi network, the system will still recognize you and be able to engage with you. But to be honest, there's typically, not always, but there is often two much better technologies than Wi-Fi to use in a small retail store. One is the people. They should engage with the customer.
Yeah.
And secondly, it is old-fashioned communication. So a poster, a picture, a digital sign. So very often you don't need that level of interactivity. Our focus is much more on shopping malls, supermarkets and bigger retailers. But I would suggest that in a smaller store, it is down to the person in the store saying hello to the customer when they come in and trying to engage with them. And you know, that it doesn't use high-tech technology, but it's always worked.
It's key, and they know who the customer is.
Yeah, exactly.
The second question we got via Twitter is about people are starting to use iOS, Mac randomized because, well, you want sometimes to prevent retailers to get access to you.
Yep.
What can be an approach of retailers to alter this in a way, or to make it more comfortable for them?
Yes, so first of all, everything we do is about positively opting in. So if you use Wi-Fi, the first question you're asked is, are you happy for the retailer to speak to you on a personal level? If you say no, that's fine, you never get communicated with. But the randomization of MAC addresses does not affect our technology, because when you sign up to Wi-Fi, that creates an immediate link between your device and the retailer's Wi-Fi. The randomization of MAC addresses has really been created to stop anonymous data gathering for third parties. And that, I agree, is slightly creepy and you have to be careful. So everything we do is about opt-in rather than anything else.
Okay. Thank you very much. Great to have you here. Thank you for your keynote.